You haven't heard, Russia is interested in invading Ukraine. And right now it feels like a scene from the Cold War. Hello and welcome to this channel. In today's video, we would be taking a look at why Russia seems intent on invading their sister country, Ukraine. Currently, there are at least 130,000 Russian troops that are positioned within reach of Ukraine's borders. And the question on everyone's mind is, are the Russian forces getting ready for war with Ukraine? The U.S. has said that the Russian forces are ready to launch military action against Ukraine any day now. But Moscow has insisted that it has no such plans. Nevertheless, the threat of being taken seriously because Russia invaded Ukraine and even seized its territory. There are more than 100,000 Russian troops that have been deployed close to Ukraine's borders, and a reported 30,000 more are engaged in exercises in Belarus, which is close to its border with Ukraine. But Russia's defense ministry has said that they are involved in major exercises, but it will send some of its units back to base after they have completed combat drills. The drills are still ongoing, and the Belarus exercises are scheduled to end on the 20th of February. At the moment, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization has said that it sees no sign of de-escalation and that Russia still has a massive invasion force ready to attack from Crimea to Belarus. However, the unknown factor is whether President Vladimir Putin has decided on invading. Nevertheless, many Western governments have called on their citizens to leave Ukraine. This prompted Ukraine's president to appeal to the West not to spread panic amongst its people. Russia's president has insisted that he does not want war and is even ready to negotiate. Despite actions towards negotiations, Putin has also threatened appropriate retaliatory military technical measures if his demands are not met. So why is Russia interested in invading Ukraine? It all started after the Soviet Union's collapse in 1991. Ukraine's policy was dominated by goals to ensure its sovereignty and independence, which was followed by a foreign policy that balanced cooperation with the European Union, Russia, and other powerful governments. But ever since the Revolution of Dignity, relations between the two countries have been hostile. This even led to the fall of Ukraine's elected president, Viktor Yanukovych, and his supporters. Because he refused to sign a political association and free trade agreement with the European Union that enjoyed majority support in Ukraine's parliament. Afterward, Ukraine's post-revolutionary government wished to commit the country to a future within the EU and NATO, instead of playing the delicate diplomatic game of balancing its own economic and security interests with those of Russia, the EU, and NATO members. Between 2004 and 2007, countries such as Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, the Czech Republic, Poland, Slovakia, Bulgaria, and Romania had joined the European Union. And so the Russian government feared that Ukraine's membership of the EU and NATO would complete a Western wall of allied countries. It did not help that South Korea and Japan were allied to the US, and made the Russia government concerned they were being ring-fenced by potentially hostile powers. Ever since Russia had resisted Ukraine's move towards European institutions, both the EU and NATO, their main demand is for the West to guarantee that Ukraine will not join NATO, which is a defensive alliance of 30 countries. Incidentally, Ukraine shares borders with both the EU and Russia, and as a former Soviet republic, it has deep social and cultural ties with Russia, to the extent that Russian is the language that is widely spoken there. After Ukrainians dethroned their pro-Russian president in early 2014, Russia assembled the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic and backed separatist militias in a war that captured large swathes of eastern Ukraine. The rebels have fought the Ukrainian military ever since, and this is a conflict that has claimed more than 14,000 lives. It's also brought some Western sanctions on Russia. To make matters worse, Russia has become frustrated that a 2015 Minsk peace deal for eastern Ukraine is far from being fulfilled. Last year, President Putin gave a clue about his thoughts in a lengthy piece when he called Russians and Ukrainians one nation. To this day, he has described the collapse of the 1991 Soviet Union as the disintegration of historical Russia. He also considers Ukraine's current leaders as running an anti-Russian project. To make matters worse, from Putin's view, Ukraine is a democracy with free speech, free media, and they freely elect its leaders. In reality, Russians don't enjoy these freedoms, and so if they follow in Ukraine's steps, it will be an open secret that Putin will not last long. What does Russia want from NATO? According to the Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, it is absolutely mandatory to ensure that Ukraine never ever becomes a member of NATO. Putin further explained that if Ukraine joined NATO, the alliance might try to recapture Crimea. Moscow has gone ahead to accuse NATO countries of pumping Ukraine with weapons, and the US of kindling tensions to contain Russia's development. This has led Putin to admit that Russia has nowhere further to retreat to. Do they think we'll just sit idly by? The truth is, Russia wants NATO to return to its pre-1997 borders, but NATO's 30 member states are insistent that it will not happen. They have demanded an end to NATO military activity in Eastern Europe and no more eastward expansion. Russia has also called for all US forces to leave Central Europe, Eastern Europe, and the Baltics. According to Putin, the West promised back in 1990 that NATO would not expand an inch to the east, but they did so anyway. Nevertheless, NATO insists that its open-door policy will not be halted. As such, Ukraine is looking for a clear timeline to join because its commitment to membership is enshrined in its constitution. The question now is, how might Russia attack, or how far are they willing to go? Moscow insists that there is no Russian invasion, but the White House has stated that any move across Ukraine's borders will be seen as an act of violence. Russia has several options of attacking, including cyber attacks and paramilitary attacks. In January, 70 Ukrainian government websites went down, and then 2 of Ukrainians' biggest banks were hit by a cyber attack in February. However, the US has warned that these methods could be used to lead to a full-scale military attack. That might involve the capital of Kiev. Is the West willing to protect Ukraine? The US and other NATO allies have made it clear that they have no plans to send combat troops to Ukraine itself. Instead, they are willing to offer support. It has been reported that the Pentagon has put 8,500 combat-ready troops on alert and is deploying 3,000 extra soldiers to Germany, Romania, and Poland, while other NATO allies have increased their support on the alliance's eastern flank. However, the main tools of the West appear to be sanctions and military aid in the form of advisors and weapons. The US has also threatened to hit Russia where it hurts if they attack, and that would involve disconnecting Russians' bank systems from the international SWIFT payment system. Or they could prevent the opening